Well, hello again there, friends and fans. Raptor here, and welcome to Farthest Frontier, an amazing survival city builder that's out now on Steam. And I thought I'd provide some helpful hints, tips, and tricks for all of you looking to have a successful defense of your city. So today's tutorial will cover all things military, including wall building, gate building, tower building, barracks, troops, and more. How to defend against those pesky raiders and invaders? Well, today I'll show you what I know. It's good to see you all here. Thank you very much for subscribing to the channel, and thanks for leaving a like too. That definitely helps more people to find the channel, and more importantly, this game. So if you have any other knowledge that you'd like to share with everyone, make sure you do down below in the comment section. Feel welcome to ask questions and give helpful hints and tips and tricks to anyone else who may be wondering. Today we're going to start with something a little simple by just taking a look at what we're doing here. Of course, we have ourselves a wall built to keep enemies out and to help keep our people in. And as you can see, some people are over here gathering wood for the, well, it's spring, but of course we're going to prepare for the winter by getting a ton of wood to make firewood and build new buildings and such. And there's no better way to keep everybody safe than having a defensive wall. Right now our people are taking the road in and out through the gate, and on the other side of the wall are these towers which will shoot at any enemies, including, for example, bears and wolves and other predators that may threaten them. This is the tier 1 tower, and inside this tower we have an individual with a crossbow who will be able to do damage to any enemies that come near. The only thing that you can start with before the crossbow is the standard bow. So the bow and the crossbow both use arrows, regardless of, crossbows usually using bolts. Those are something that we can make inside of our city at the Fletcher, and we can also make the crossbows with the tier 2 Fletcher as well. But bows and arrows can be made very early on, and the lookout tower can be as well, and this is a perfect building to start your defenses. And what I would say is that it is a very good idea to build this building, the lookout tower, and several of them inside your city, kind of in corners around important buildings where you'll be doing a lot of your storage, such as, for example, storing your gold, or storing valuables like shoes, or perhaps maybe different types of materials that the enemy may want to steal, like iron, which they can sell for a lot of money. So they're looking to basically rob you like a bank. So you need to think of security in that sense. If we take a look at this tower, it's actually looking over the wall and is getting a lot of bonuses for its damage because of it being in an elevated position. The way that we built this tower is that it's above the valley down below, and so you can see +7, 8, and 9, 10 in some cases on some of these towers if you kind of look around. And you'll be able to do more damage. Of course, the crossbow will do more damage because it's more powerful than a bow, and also being able to fire down on the enemy will be +9. So rather than doing maybe like 8 or 10 damage, we'll be doing like 19 or 20 damage based on, of course, the crossbow and some other factors too. So you can also see in yellow the range of the tower around it, and we've set up our towers to basically cover each tower. So you can see that this tower is covering the one next to it, and vice versa, by basically bringing them within the same catchment area, the same circle. And look here, we can see 16 damage, 17 damage in some cases, so these towers are very good. The tower can be upgraded to a tier 2 tower, which is back here made of stone, known as the watchtower. The watchtower gets some extra bonuses that the base 1 tower doesn't have, but both towers can house 2 people, and those people can fire bows or crossbows regardless of what the tower is. Now, in order to upgrade your tower to tier 2, you'll need 25 stone, 10 iron, 100 gold, and 20 wood planks. And towers are very expensive, but the most expensive thing in the game has got to be a standing army. So if you put 1 or 2 people in a tower to defend your whole city, that is much more affordable than having a barracks full of troops. But we'll get to the barracks in a little bit. We're going to cover now what it's like to actually set up a defense that might be good for coverage. We're going to go into the city now, where we've got some raiders who will be showing up here shortly. We'll make sure that we bust up those knuckleheads in just a moment. But here is a beautiful city, known as Mount RAPTORIA. Each one of these towers here are designed to cover each other. This is super complicated, but if you can see here, each of these little white outlines are a tower that's been upgraded to tier 2. Each of these towers cover each other, and each of these towers cover important buildings that are also tier 2, such as the vault here that can store our money, a storehouse which stores things like shoes and crossbows and other types of ammo, which can also be stored in the vault, and then also the storehouse, which can store things like planks and wood and whatnot. Typically the enemy won't go for that, but if they try to bust in, they will. And just as importantly, the trade depot, where somebody wants to trade with us too. The reason they'll go for the trade depot is because we have supplies in here. Like, for example, we have a bunch of plate mail armor, which we could trade with Masuk here. And we also have a lot of cash in here, which we're dealing back and forth so we can buy and sell things. So when the raiders attack, they're definitely going to want to come towards the center of the city here, to which they'll be met with certain death with the amount of towers that we have. Interestingly enough, this is the Tier 1 wall that you may have seen earlier. This looks really decorative. The fieldstone wall actually serves as some level of military defense, as the enemy will have to bust these down in order to get past them. So rather than doing that, they're going to take the pathways, because they're running into your town. They're trying to rob your town as if it were a bank. Now later on, there'll be invading armies that will ask for a ransom in order not to attack you, and if they attack, they'll go for your town center over here. If you ever get attacked, by the way, by the enemy, the town center bell can be alerted, and people will actually run inside of this in order to fire arrows. It might not be going off right now. There we go. All right. So everybody will run inside who's around here in order to fire arrows, and it acts like a super tower. It has a crazy range. It can fire 2, 3, 4 arrows at a time and can do a lot of damage too, and it can defend itself against enemy raiders. So instead of thinking of this as a building to protect your people, think of it more as a building to attack the enemy. Of course, everybody in there will be well defended, and this is a super heavily armored building, but more importantly, it does a lot of damage to the enemy, and it gets them dead quick, and that's very important too. So we've got towers covering a massive amount of the town. We have towers around all sorts of buildings, such as an industrial area here. We have towers around, of course, all of our storage area here. And hell, we even have a tower over here at the farm, because these are very important buildings. We don't want our cows to get killed. Look at that freakish cow right there. What the... But anyway, yeah, so we have troops. Mostly 1 in a lot of these towers outside the town, and 2 inside these. Keep in mind that this is incredibly expensive, and without even having a military, we're training up to 300... We're spending 344 on upkeep of all of our military buildings and all of our soldiers, and that's without even a single troop. Well, look at this. An invading army demands payment. They want us to pay 650 gold, otherwise they'll attack. You're denied, sir. You're denied. Let's take a look at the enemy here. They're going to attack us, but we're going to go through a few of the troops in which we may face. So regardless of whether or not we're fighting raiders, or in this case, kind of an army that wants a ransom, we're going to deal with a lot of these guys who have a lot of the same things. You'll see some of these individuals with clubs, some of these guys with swords, and some of them with shields, and these are all different tiers. Some of these guys have a lot of HP, these shield bearers here, and also can do a lot of damage. They're very good for getting through walls and also damaging your towers. Think of them almost as like macemen from Stronghold, which is amazing. You also see a lot of these guys with packs, and so these are the raiders who will try to steal things from your town. You definitely want to keep them away. The guys with clubs are pretty easy to kill. They're not too much to worry about. Same with the guys with swords. They do a little bit more damage, have a little bit more health, but are still easy to take down. But the guys with the shields, those are the ones to worry about. Additionally, the enemy may on occasion bring battering rams too to try to destroy your towers and your walls, and a battering ram really can only be destroyed by having ground forces, which is why you can't completely get away with having towers. Here in the southwestern section, it looks like they're probably going to go towards our gate here, and it is a good idea for us also to clear out all these trees so we have good line of sight. If we clear these trees out, we'll also get an extra bonus here, but our people haven't been able to keep up with how quickly the trees have been growing back. So it's always a good idea to go down to the Harvest Resources tab, and all these trees that are highlighted in white are trees that we're trying to cut out of the way, but our people just haven't gotten to. All right, well, let's see the action. We've got troops in these towers, 1 in a lot of these cases. Let's try to bump up the numbers. See if we can add a couple more troops here. Now, they might get through the wall, but a wall is very easy to replace, and the towers themselves have very good HP too. So if they happen to break through the wall, they'll go for the tower, and the tower has a lot of HP as well. So rather than taking losses of troops and being able to have to pay another 50 coin per every troop that we have to retrain, and paying for their armor and their weapons and such, we'll let the towers take care of it. Let's see how they do. Keep in mind we're playing at a little bit slower pace now, so we'll kind of see how the enemies come in. Tower here is actually firing crossbows at the enemy, and you can see doing a lot of good damage here, hitting for 16 every time on these guys here. And that's, you know, plus 3 damage, plus 5 damage, so you'll see that number drop as they get a little closer. Maybe. There it goes, down to 14 now. So it looks like a majority of the raiders are actually going for our gate, so they're smart enough to actually go for a weakness in our defense. A wooden gate is going to be a little easier to destroy than a stone wall, so they're going to run for that. If large rams ever come in, they will definitely go for the gates first, and I think this is how the enemy will try to attack us in most cases, will be to go for a gate first, then the towers, and then to try to destroy the wall. So they try to get rid of all your defenses. Now, our soldiers here can also be commanded to get outside of the tower, too. So if we wanted to, we could tell our troops to step outside, and we could have them fall back, too. So we could individually command each of these towers to have the troops fall back to the high ground if they want to. But they're much better in the towers. All right, so the enemies are now attacking the gate, and all of these buildings will automatically repair if left alone long enough. The people from the town will come out and start repairing all these walls and the gate and the towers over time. There's no real special order I see that you have to give them, but they'll definitely do their best to come out as soon as they can. When these lower level enemies take enough damage, they'll start to flee. They realize it's not worth it. A little bit of a morale loss here as they start to flee. They were also being chased by a wolf here, so even the surrounding area of bears and wolves and such may attack the enemy as they approach. All right, a lot of these guys have taken too much damage. They're thinking twice about attacking, and they're paying with their lives here. A few more trying to get through. They might actually bust through that gate. We'll see. And we've got raiders attacking the wall over here, too, where they're meeting the same fate with the tower over here. Let's go up to speed 1 and watch all the enemies try to break through. A few of these shield bearers might get through, but eventually, if the enemy takes enough losses in their total invasion force, they will eventually give up. Oh, and they've broken the wall. All right, Yep, the enemy has breached the walls, just like in Stronghold. All right, we've got raiders attacking everywhere. We're not going to worry about anything else on the side except for the combat right now. So, and it's on. Raiders are, looks like they're actually fleeing now. So those towers, very effective. The tier 2 towers with the crossbows getting some big W's in here right now. Look at that. Pretty much all enemies defeated with just one of these shield bearers still attacking the wall and decides to flee. After the enemy has been destroyed, we can click on each of these little pieces here and try to rebuild the wall. If the enemy destroyed a larger part of the wall, what we could do is we could click this Manage Walls button, and if this large section was completely destroyed, we could click here and try to rebuild multiple pieces or upgrade. In this case, one section of wall was destroyed, as well as the gate, and then the towers were slightly damaged, but our people will come out shortly and do some repairs on that. So far, so good. Our good friend up here, by the way, Masuk, was looking to trade with us, by the way, so let's not be rude. Let's see if we can trade with him. Unfortunately, I think he left, but Beldar is here, and this is a good example to show a few of the things that we can buy in the game in order to trade for, well, weapons. We could trade crossbows in the game. That's what's here. Unfortunately, it doesn't really, it's kind of hard to see, but we can trade all sorts of things here. Let's see if it'll actually tell us. Wonder if it'll actually pop up for us. There we are. So we have shields that we can make in our armor. We have hauberks that we can make in our armor. And we also have plate armor that we can make in our armor as well. And in fact, we'll take a look at that building now. All of the things that I just mentioned we can buy. Arrows must be made, however. So a great way to make money in this game is making a lot of extra armor and selling it, and then buying things that you need. Like, for example, materials to make even more. So, if you have enough material to make 2 sets of armor, you can almost sell it to make 4 the next time around. Here's our tier 1 armorer building. And this armory can actually be upgraded to tier 2 to then make some more of the things that I mentioned, like plate mail, for example. So the tier 1 can house 4 people. They can make shields, and they can make hauberks, and those are 2 types of armor that are basically like tier 1. In addition to that, we also have ourselves a blacksmith over here. This is the tier 2 blacksmith, and inside there they can make handheld weapons and also heavy weapons. Heavy weapons are like the tier 2. So just think of everything as tier 1, tier 2. So heavy weapons are tier 2, weapons are tier 1, and it's the same with the armor. The hauberks and the shields are tier 1, and the plate armor is tier 2. Now you can see it takes a crazy amount of iron to make that. 15 to make 1 piece of heavy weapons. And so we have over here smelteries that are doing a lot of good work in smelting gold and iron in order for us to buy more materials, and then to be able to sell some things and then continuously trade so we can build and pay for our military. So that's kind of a good way to do that. So you have your armory building, you have your blacksmith. Those are the 2 to make weapons for you. But you also have your Fletcher. This building here, upgraded to tier 2, will do a lot of upgrades. Now, keep in mind, a lot of these buildings, if you hover over the building and you see the upgrade button, it'll tell you what it'll do when it upgrades. So just keep in mind that a lot of the buildings have 2 tiers of upgrade. Just like our blacksmith, tier 1 to tier 2, the Fletcher can also be up to tier 2. Tier 2 allows us to produce more things, meaning numbers of things, but also new recipes too. So tier 1 will have arrows and bows that we can make. Tier 2 allows us to make crossbows. And of course, just as a side note, the bows or crossbows that you make can also go to your hunters. The crossbows and bows are first distributed to the military, people garrisoned inside of barracks or people inside of towers. And then your hunters will get it too. And the hunters can actually attack the enemy as well and also serve as a great early defense for your town. If you build a hunter and you have wolf attacks and such, a tier 1 hunter with a bow and a sword that they get by just kind of being a default hunter can really, really defend your city at the start. So that's a good thing to consider when you're doing that. Let's get on to the barracks now. I'm going to show you the tier 1 and then eventually show you the tier 2 barracks, which becomes a fort. So inside the barracks, we can recruit up to 12 troops, and then the tier 2 barracks can have up to 24 troops. We can actually give them orders by giving them a flag combat area, which basically means that they'll deploy to that area, and then they'll do patrols around that area to look for the enemy. We can recruit troops here, and they'll start with literally nothing. If we recruit up to 12 troops, they'll start with nothing, and then things will start to get delivered here. So you'll see people run for this building, and you'll see that they have no weapons, no ranged weapons. But all of your troops will get a ranged weapon, the best that they can find, tier 1 first, and then if tier 2 is available, they'll take that. And the same for the armor. They'll try to take the hauberks and the shield, and if not, then they'll take the better plate mail, if that's available. And then same for weapons. Weapons, and if not, heavy weapons. And so, thus, a soldier with a crossbow, plate mail, and heavy weapons are the best that you can get on the battlefield. Now, I'm not sure if there's any veterancy or anything in the game, and you'll kind of see that their health drops down a little bit, and I believe that's just because they haven't equipped their armor or whatnot. I think this gives them an increased amount of health, so long as they actually, it's a increased possibility of having a higher health, but they don't have their weapons yet. So a lot of this screen is kind of incomplete now. This is still an early access version of the game that you're seeing that's not yet fully released to the public. So some of the things here might be a little weird, but as you can see, the troops are deploying out onto the field, and each of these barracks can be commanded as their own army. So if you want to have multiple armies to defend multiple gates or sections of town, you need to have multiple barracks for multiple garrisons, so that way they can protect different parts of town. Now, obviously, nobody has anything here of value. No swords, no weapons, no nothing. So, but they can still use their fists. So it almost acts as a makeshift police force, too, if things get rowdy in the town. If happiness drops enough, you'll start having fights and violence will break out. I've never really seen it yet. They kind of see every once in a while beer shortages and people will get mad at the bartender, but that's about it. It actually truly happens. So anyway, once the enemy attacks, our troops here will be garrisoned inside this barracks unless we deploy them. So it's a good idea to wait for the enemy to come to you, otherwise you're going to have some sort of a Benny Hill style chase, and by that I mean your troops will basically run around trying to melee the enemy, and everybody just chases everybody, and nothing really gets done. So ranged weapons are king in order to eliminate the enemy at far. And once we're done with the war, or once we want the enemy, or rather the coast is clear, we can have our troops return to the barracks, and now if they have ranged weapons, they'll be able to fire on the tower and anybody who comes near without even simply being deployed. If a bear comes into town and happens to pass the barracks and is attacking people, the troops inside will shoot at them, no problem. The Tier 2 barracks will have a much higher range and much more damage too, so as you see here, we've got 2s and 1s everywhere, and of course 6s as well. The more clear the area is and the higher up the barracks is, the better. Unfortunately, you can't raise land in this game, for a lot of people thinking, oh, I'll build a tower up high. Great idea. You just can't raise the land to do it. You can kind of use flatten to maybe do it. Like, for example, over here, we could flatten the terrain and possibly have this come out further and further at the same altitude, but it'll take a very long time. So taking advantage of high land like this and putting a wall around it is a great idea. The amount of walls that are available in the game, too, by the way, are, of course, Tier 1, and these are like little fences just to keep critters out, like, for example, deer. Oh, by the way, that's a glitch with that gate. You may have seen that, but so this is like your Tier 1, kind of just like a field gate to keep our animals safe. If wolves come nearby, our cows will go inside where it's safe, and the fence will stop wolves and other animals from getting through, and they can be upgraded to a palisade. So if you have yourselves a lot of wood, you can definitely make a palisade wall, but here in the mountains we've got a lot of stone, so we went for a stone wall. Now I believe that the stone walls are probably better in every way, at least in terms of durability, but a wooden wall is cheaper and much easier to replace. So that's a good thing to note then. So that's pretty much it for when it comes to how to repair walls, how to deploy your troops. Well, let's go see another big war in another big city and see if the enemy can break through our walls. Remember, they could also bring rams and break through the walls easily and destroy the towers, but perhaps on some occasions it's a good idea to have a standing army. But it is highly advised to have your standing army in the city so they can react to attacks from pretty much 360 degrees, and then eventually maybe put a few troops, just a few, at your gates. All right, let's jump over to another city and see another invasion. Let's go. Spring has sprung. Here we are in another town. 62 raiders sighted. Where could they be coming from? Well, they've broken through a gate here that we're building. We're upgrading a old wooden wall just to see how it would work. In another city long ago in which we were learning this, we're building a beautiful wall here to try to keep invaders out. But 62 of them have made their way through and are going to face the ultimate consequence of our towers. Over here we actually see ourselves the Tier 2 Barracks, which is a nice looking building. It's known as the Fort. The Fort is a very, very powerful building, and well, all of our troops there are a little sad. I wonder why. Actually, I think that's inaccurate. Yeah, it looks like happiness overall in the town is pretty good. There's a shortage of, entertainment. Well, must be out of beer again. Anyway, we'll have everybody jump inside of the barracks. Our troops will be able to fire from outside the building. Check this out. They got heavy weapons, plate mail armor, and lots of crossbows. So the enemy's about to have what we're going to go ahead and call a bad time. Enemies coming in from the field now. We're going to go ahead and play this one in slow motion and take a look at how effective these towers are. Towers here are placed to basically defend our storehouses and vaults in this other city that we're on. And we're going to go ahead and have our troops. We're going to quickly see if we can deploy them, but then tell them to go back inside. There we go. And see if we can get them to fire at all the approaching enemies. So, there we go. Alright, so our troops who are heavily armed and heavily armored are going to start firing as soon as the enemy gets close. Towers are already firing their crossbows on every street corner they can. And this is why walls are, definitely great for slowing down the enemy and giving your troops time to get in place. And as you can see, the enemy bashing a lot of stuff there. I think 0 FPS because it was doing a little quick save or something there. But yeah, lots and lots of troops pouring in, but lots and lots of arrows pouring out. Now, once the enemy gets close to the barracks, it's all over. The Tier 2 upgraded fortress here, the fort, is just going to be ridiculous with the amount of fire coming out of it. Let's get all these symbols out of the way and just purely take a look at the amount of almost shotgun burst coming out of this fort. I mean, everybody who's got a crossbow is literally firing from these windows. I thought a lot of it would be appearance-wise, but they're actually firing from each and every one of those windows. Let's deploy the troops now. They're inside the town. Let's go ahead and have our troops go out to meet them now, and they shall meet death with the Raptorian army. Troops are now deploying. They've got their crossbows. They'll be able to fire. They're loading those up so they can fire them. Now, the troops here can fire through the buildings, which I guess is okay if I think about it, because honestly, people should be able to be proactive. The soldiers should be proactive in finding any and every opportunity they can to kill the enemy. So in my opinion, this kind of just counts as if they were kind of actually active in their attacks against the enemy, as in they were acting individually for targets of opportunity, anybody that they could basically take out easily. And all those troops are now firing their crossbows outside of the yeah, they're already running away. They're firing outside the fort, and the fort fired like crazy. Now, in this case, we lost a couple of houses, which can be easily rebuilt with logs and whatnot, but mostly nobody has lost their lives, or more importantly, any sort of massive amounts of storage, which would set the town back for a very long time. Now, the troops here could pursue, but again, it would be like a Benny Hill type situation. They would just be chasing and chasing and chasing, and nothing would actually get done. So we could tell the troops to go back, and that'll be just fine. Now, I think there should be a few things to change for the game. I think there's a few things, command-wise that are a little clunky or a little slow, but it is nice at least that the troops, when they get low on health, will actually run away, and that's quite a cool thing. And I do like that quite a bit. So, towers, very powerful. Unfortunately, when the raiders die, if I had not mentioned it, you basically get nothing for that. If you kill a raider, it's just one less problem to worry about. Unfortunately, you don't get to take any of their armor or shields, or if they are carrying loot, though, they will drop it. So if they've stolen something from your town, your people will come through and pick it up and put it back into the storage if they happen to be killed looting. So that'll be nice. So a few things that they may have gotten, like wax there sitting in the middle of the street, which is used for candle making, will be put back into storage. and it'll be like nothing ever happened. So, yeah, here we've got, boy, close to 24 troops in here. Looks like 15 out of 24. And we can build multiple barracks then. Good idea to build one in the center of town, and then maybe another one wherever you have the most amount of trouble. But this town, of course, is going to take a very long time before we can build a stone wall around it. Now, some might ask, hey, why are you building the wall on the inside of the farms or whatnot? But a good thing here is, or rather, why are you not building the farms on the outside of the wall? But honestly, it seems like a pretty good idea to actually keep the walls on the inside of the town, everything on the inside of the town, because once the enemy breaks through these walls, if you have guard towers nearby, yeah, remember what we mentioned before about all that clear and open space? If we click on this tower here, we get like +3s and 2s, so the enemy's going to be out in the open. Like if they break through, they've either got to take the road or through these massive spaces here, and so they can continuously take damage from the tower. Basing our defenses more on the game's mechanics than what you would rather do if you had a big brain, unlike me. But this is what I've been managing to do so far in this game, and I absolutely love it. So there's a hell of a lot more to learn, but those are the basics of Tier 1 walls, Tier 2 walls, and of course stone and wood walls. The differences between the fort and the barracks, the differences between the towers and the troop types, and how a lot of things are Tier 1 weapons, Tier 2 weapons, like for example, Tier 1 weapons and Tier 2 heavy weapons, for example. All in the defense of your great nation, with beautiful theaters, and of course your town hall, and much more to see. It is quite the sight, I would say, for Farthest Frontier, and this is quite a good city. This game's making some massive improvements as well, so if you saw some things here that you didn't like, for example, like the frame rates, they are getting better as the developers continuously update things, and you may have seen it down in the lower left corner at about 20 FPS there just a second ago. Things are getting better. Dev team's doing a great job of making things interesting, and I like this as being a little bit more than just what I was hoping it wouldn't be, which was a turret defense game or a tower defense game, and it certainly is a little bit more than that. A game that plays in the beginning like Banished, quickly becomes like Anno, and then eventually becomes like Dawn of Man with all of the army raising and wall defenses you'll need to do, and it certainly is a hell of a lot of fun. So, if you have any questions, ask down below. If you have any tactics for anybody who's new, or maybe a pro or something you learned yourself, please do share it down below. Make sure you also join our Discord for giveaways on Farthest Frontier and many more games as well. And thank you, everybody, for watching. Follow me now and subscribe today, where we'll probably be live with this game and many more in the future. Thanks again, everybody, for watching. I'll be back with more updates soon on Farthest Frontier, new troops and military types, gates, and more, if and when they're added in the future. So thank you very much for joining, and thank you very much, everyone, for watching. I'll see you all next time. Take care, and enjoy the view. I'm leaving now. I don't know about you, but all right, turn off the lights when you're done. Have a good one. Bye.